Hi, this is David Willner.
Barnea, Selavan.
Welcome back to the LandMinds podcast, brought to you by Foundation Stone. Barnea, I can honestly say it's been quite a while.
It's been quite a while. This is where we're Corona and other issues knocked us out of the box, and I'm very happy that in this Tammuz Tafshin Pei Bet 5782, we are getting back on track. Things are sprouting, things are growing, things are happening. People are coming, people are walking, people are digging.
So
not all the restaurants are open, but
the digging is the thing, right? People are outdoors. The archaeological world is starting to resurrect itself, for lack of better.
With overseas students able to come.
Correct. So the borders are open. There's a mess. The airports are a mess.
Unbelievable. Right? People were on the flights and they get canceled. So that's where we're holding.
All right, but we're here, so we have no excuses.
No excuses.
We get to travel the country. You've been to some interesting places recently, but what we're going to try to do today is go through this year's excavation list of sites throughout the country and give a little bit of a background review and expectations wherever possible, and see what we can come up with, and maybe share some other recent archaeological news and issues.
Yeah, if we're going to do a little bit about each one, it's 15 hours. Maybe we should just choose a couple.
I see on the list about, let's see, maybe 20 sites. I don't think it's even that many. Yeah, let's say 20 sites. That
right, but plus whatever but plus there's a whole bunch of short-term sites. People say, come this week, we're digging here. Come this week, we're digging there. Those are popping up all over the place.
Correct. So the first one on the list, and I can't say this is really alphabetical order, right? At least not in English, right? Is Avel Beit Ma'acha, which in English is Abel Beit Ma'acha.
Yeah.
Beth Ma'acha.
I
went to high school with her, but Barnea, what's Avel Beit Ma'acha? Where is it in the country? Right, and who's digging there?
Can I share screen?
It should be all set up for you. There you go.
Okay, which screen are you seeing?
I see your desktop. Now, as interesting as that is, you haven't changed it since 1984.
Right. Okay, and now?
You have to make it full screen.
It is.
There you go. Well, now it is.
Okay.
All right, so as you can see, June 26th to July 21st. That's, folks, that's only another 2 weeks. So if you're in the country and you want to visit, you have 2 weeks left on the excavation season.
Right. Now, what's special about Tel Aviv Beit Mach, here's a great image from the side.
You know what that looks like? It looks a lot like ancient Gat of the Philistines. The shape of the mound and the open fields all the way around.
Right. The slant isn't as much.
Correct.
So this is north, and this is south, and in the distance of there is the Golan Heights, and Mount Hermon is out this way, and Avel Beit Ma'acha is in the northern boundary of the Kingdom of Israel. It's on the northern boundary of the state of Israel. It's really connected to the places a little bit further in Lebanon. It's connected to Iyun, which is now Marj Iyun. And when we talk about the Assyrians coming in waves and destroying the north and exiling the people, Avel Beit Ma'acha is part of that. But
by the way, I just want to point out that it's usually the Philistines and the Phoenician that come in waves, right? And then they beach the ships on the shore. I'm sorry. Yeah, I shouldn't have interrupted.
Okay. So it's flipping through different slides. Images. Yeah, what you just saw. Very nice. So we'll let it just flip, right? Bronze ring for the Middle Bronze 2B. That means 3,800 years old, 3,800 years old, but found later. And I don't know how to do this so it will stop. What I wanted was
try just hovering and click one time on the left side.
So they found the head of an idol, which has really, a cover issue, what it is, who does it represent. But even young Jewish children will recognize the name of Avel Beit Macha from the Book of Kings, because Sheva ben Bichri starts a rebellion against David, and there it is, the elite figure made a fiance, Iron Age 2A. So we are in the time of the kings of Israel, apparently, or just before then. And here it is, apparently you're dealing with idolatry in the north, so interesting, right? Is this Solomon's time? Is it afterwards? How is this happening? What does this represent? That's a full face representation. The nose being broken may be because of an iconoclast that might be deliberate, or it might have just gotten busted because it was sticking out. Hard to know. But fascinating feature. But Sheva ben Bichri runs and goes to Avel Beit Macha, and Yoav comes and is about to take the city down, and the wise woman inside, we have traditions of who that woman is, says, what do you want? He says, I just want him. And this is brought in Jewish law. If they come and say, give us one person, we'll spare the rest, everybody has to die. But if they come and they say, we're out for a specific person for a specific reason, then one can give that person over and save everybody else. So his head comes flying over. Maybe some kid said, oh, let's remember Sheva ben Bichri's head, right? And it's great. I was driving up there with a family, and the farmer from the orchard fields, because I says, you're going to go read the story? I said, yes, because you want somebody up on top yelling from within the city, and you want somebody playing Yoav down below. But they have finds here from the biblical period, before the biblical period. It's a powerful city. You know what, David? Did you play with pinball machines? I don't know if that was a California thing.
Oh, are you kidding?
Yeah.
Big kind, but both kinds.
What does both kinds mean?
We had Bally pinball machines with the flippers and the whole thing, and we also had pachinko, which is Japanese pinball, where the ball drops down from a hole on top, and it goes bouncing around as it finds its way down, right? Doing all kinds of things on its way down. Different style pinball.
I have to look it up.
Pachinko machines. Yeah, if you see it, you'll recognize it.
Okay, but in Bali, when you shoot it goes down the lane, it comes into the playing field, and there's terminals up on top, and it bounces back and forth. And if you're lucky, the more time it bounces, the more points you get. And then it passes these bumpers, maybe 4 or 5 bumpers. It could be there's a standard to it. And it comes down to an open area. And again, there's a couple of lanes, but now you have to be careful with your flippers. So I like comparing certain cities to those bumpers, like Lachish. I stand on top of Lachish. I can see the coast. I can see the mountains. I see the valleys. Maresha. You can't move anywhere. Gat. You can't move anywhere in the area without my knowing about it. It's the sentinel guarding that area. Gezer. These are the sentinels. So they're like those terminals in the pinball machine. So Avel Beis Macha
I have to admit, Barnea, I don't understand the illusion, right? But I'm willing to work with it.
I'll see if I can come up with an image, right? But apparently you're more into pachinko, in the pachinko.
No, because the Who recorded a song called Pinball Wizard that was later released by Elton John, right? And there has to be a twist.
Cute. Let me see if I can get a close up. I'll try. But at any rate, you have the Lebanese mountains. The mountains.
You stopped screen sharing, so you got to look at the camera.
Okay. You have the Lebanese mountains to the west, Mount Hermon to the east, and a short gap to come down between them. That's where Iyun is. And as you come out, you're coming into the valleys. That's where you meet Avel Beit Macha. And then a little bit to the west is Kedesh. A little bit to the east is Tel Dan. A little bit to the south is Chatzor. and you're in the powerhouses of the north. So Avel Beit Macha, which is just below Metula, in modern Israel, is a pathway, a central pathway shooting down the middle of the valley that lies between the Lebanon and the anti-Lebanon, coming in, access from the north. So of course, I'm going to grab it as a stronghold to be able to, and fertile fields all around it. Even today, they have to basically excavate between the orchards. It's that fertile. All right, and you have water streaming down. In normal conditions, you have the water of the Litani River joining the Chatzbani, the Dan, the upper Jordan River is forming there. And here's where the Litani would be coming down, and the Iyun waterfall right near there, the Tanur waterfall right near there. So it's fantastically fertile under normal conditions. Now the Lebanese keep the water there, and we're not getting the full natural flow, but still. So the Hebrew University team is digging there, and they always have finds which are newsworthy, and I would love to go and spend the day there, but maybe you'll go. You're a little bit closer. You're down the block a little
bit, yeah. Being excavated by who?
The pardon me a second. Did I close it?
Robert Mullins, Nama Yalomak, and Nava Panitz Cohen.
Yeah, people were very connected to Ami Mazar, and this is the next generation, right? They worked with Ami Mazar and helped publish all of his books. So
and he was still excavating. Now he's
exacting in detail. And there's an upper part of the mound, there's a side part of the mound. I don't know the goals for this season, but there's no question that they're digging in periods of interest and will have finds. It's just so rich. And it's relatively new, it's a decade of excavation in the modern times, minus COVID. So we have high hopes. So that's Avel Beit Macha, again, near Metula of today. If you're staying in the north, run up there, say hello. They're very friendly.
And take in some ice skating while you're up there.
Yes.
That brings us to I know a very favorite site of that you find fascinating. That's Tel Azikah.
Oh, Tel Azikah. I dug there last.
What is so interesting off to the side there?
I have on the screen the different digs, and their pages open, and I have to see how to move it over, but I have them all open over here. I'm sorry. Okay. So there's a new feature which more and more are doing it, where they say, what are we doing for this year? What are our goals, so that you find out? Yeah. So they had an Azikah conference, and they have a movie on the site. It's called azikah.org, the Lautenschlager Azikah Expedition. It's the University of Tel Aviv and University of Heidelberg together, and some other partners from across Europe. They were up to 20 universities participating before COVID. 20 universities. COVID, some missiles in the north, it takes the toll on people. And Azikah appears in today's Daf Yomi. Today's Daf Yomi is Yevamot 122. It's the last page, and it has a story about Azikah. And there's a discussion between Rashi and Tosafot. Are we talking about a guarded orchard, field, and the Azek part is that's encircled and protected? Or Rashi brings an approach, it's a city in Eretz Yisrael, in which case it's our Azekah. Now, I contended years ago that the nature, the physical nature of this mountain, which stands as a bulwark between the lands of the Philistines and Judea, it is like an Azekah. It's actually a long strip, but it has, a top, and there are fortifications there from different periods. But even without the man-made fortifications, it acts as the fortifications. In other words, when the Philistines go past Azekah and reach Socha Sher Yehuda, and they camp in between Socho and Azekah, that's an invasion. If you cross Azikah, you've definitely crossed from the Philistine lands into Judah, and you see that from the top of the hill, especially if you go to look towards the west.
Barnea, let's pause for a second.
When you cross Azekah, you're entering Philistine land. Now, we found in the late Bronze Age mud bricks, about 2 million mud bricks in a wall going all around Azekah. You're right. You're talking in the Canaanite period.
Good thing they were cheap, even in antiquity.
Right, but you're talking millions of mud bricks. Now, there's a new approach to mud bricks. It's a little bit down and dirty. Someone is doing their doctorate on this in Tel Aviv University. He's an older man. He's doing this for fun. He doesn't need the doctorate. He's going to all the different digs and taking samples from the mud bricks because it's coming from soil. And workers would use it to relieve their bowels and other bodily fluids. And there's foodstuffs, and you can find all types of things about the diet and the life of people, and possibly dating and other things from examining the material of the mud brick, which was taken from local areas. It seems pretty consistent. You know, I was told once, don't get certain tea leaves because the workers use them to clean themselves. So don't buy tea from that company, right? This is something very interesting in the mud bricks. You wouldn't think of like saying, that's where I'm going to find out the information. But at any rate, later societies built on top of that. There's a Greek period, Hellenistic period, fortress on top, and my classmate Nitzan Shalom has a very tough dig on a steep slope of the hill where there were barriers put up, supports so that people could use that side of the hill. She found an ancient altar. Each area, there are Bar Kokhba caves there from 1850 years ago. Each area offers something else. Now, initially, they spent 2 years surveying Tel Azekah, and a friend of mine earned his master's through the 2 years of survey, which he conducted together with other people's help. And they chose 5 spots to excavate, hoping that some of them would be worthwhile. They hit pay dirt literally on all 5 spots. And also, this is a long-term excavation. They plan to dig for 5 years, take a break, so you catch up with research and printing, dig for 5 years, take a break, and then dig for another 5 years. Corona came in, in the middle. So 2012 to 2017 was round 1, and this should be the end of round 2, but I don't know how the COVID break made a difference. They did dig during COVID, but just with the international students, small area. That's why when Alon Rogoff and I went last time, we were very much appreciated. I spent the whole day cleaning, articulating a floor in front of what may be a gate so it could be clearly discerned, and then they would make a cut into it to see what was beneath it. I can't wait to see what happened with that. I was like a day before the end of the season working with Willner.
Why can't we get you to do sponge?
You can, but I was taught not to sponge off of people. Yes.
All right. So that brings us to Caesarea Maritima.
That's an overwhelming site because the Rothschild Foundation is funding it. Just keep digging.
That's not why. They're funding it because it's a monumental site.
No.
It's not a
Since
monumental
their name
site
is
because
identified.
the Rothschilds are
They're identified with the site. They were involved in its original development, and so that's their home site. So it's wonderful. I mean, they also do all types of other charity and help with education, etc. But yes, it's a good shidduch. It's worthy of a Rothschild to fund there. Now, something that was developed several years ago. In fact, it was dedicated a moment before Ruby Rivlin, president of Israel, lost his wife like a day or so beforehand. He came to the opening and then he ran back to be with his wife. They uncovered the Herodian arches which supported the platform for the temple of Augustus in honor of Caesar that he built. And they installed a state-of-the-art museum with movies, with a movie filmed for it telling the story, which is pretty good.
Multimedia center more than a museum.
Multimedia center, but with all types of artifacts and an explanation. So the map is showing you the goods interacting with Caesarea, and you see all of the goods of the Mediterranean in the region coming in, and then you see the actual remains, amphora storage, shipping vessels from here, from there, different types of anchors, ships, etc. And you realize how it changed the course of Mediterranean shipping, as I originally learned from Avner Goren. My final was on Caesarea, right? And my exam to get the tour guide license. And the grandeur is just going. Now, they expanded a park so you can walk along the shore. You see aspects of the port, and there's now a clear pathway, a nice, I think it's even wheelchair accessible the whole way, to get to the remains of a synagogue, which was there, where they found a fragment of a mosaic floor that is part of a text that talks about the 24 priestly families, the Mishmarot HaKehuna, which went into exile mostly into the Galilee area. So there's a few different stages there, and they fixed that up. If you haven't been there in 30 days, you make the blessing of Baruch Daina Emes, blessed be the true judge that's destroyed. And you can just imagine the way it looked. It's just a fragment, but you can say, I'm by the sea. Now, Josephus tells us that because an idol was built facing a synagogue in Caesarea and the Jews protested and the Romans didn't accept it, that's where the riots broke out that led to the full revolt that led to the destruction of the Second Temple. So you wonder, is this the synagogue mentioned in Josephus? If
Doesn't
not,
have to be.
No, if you're wearing a tour guide license, it has to be.
Caesarea had so many Jews and non-Jews living in it that there was undoubtedly many synagogues there.
Right. So I don't know, over the past months, I don't know what their goal is. Hang on one second.
So maybe you know the answer to this question.
Just right? 1 second. I have something on the shelf here from Caesarea, because I was told that how they...
So you keep looking and listen to the question while you look.
Here it is.
Okay.
Here it is.
We talk
Let's recommend to our readers a walk. I know it's looks backward. A walk to Caesarea, a historical archaeological perspective by Joseph Patrick from Yad Ben Tzvi. Caesarea, the capital of province of Judah, Palestina. And this is made not for archaeologists, it's made for the interested, intelligent reader. It's not describing the jug handle. Guide to Caesarea with tours, highly recommended. Yeah.
Okay, now you ready? And I said maybe you know the answer to this question, because I don't believe there is an answer to the question, but maybe you know the answer, right? We talk about the 10 martyrs, and one of those martyrs, the most famous story is the martyrdom of Rabbi Akiva. And we often say, and you hear tour guides say it, and other people saying that he was executed in Caesarea, in Caesarea. Now, is that based on anything? I've never seen a source for that. I think it's not an unreasonable assumption, but I don't think it's more than an assumption. I can't think of a single source, right, that documents where Rabbi Akiva was put to death.
Avner Goren quotes a source, I don't remember if it's a Tosefta, that talks about a structure and is associated with Caesarea and makes sense from the prison and since it was the seat of the Roman government. He put together sources and he suggested it, and I assume that all of the tour guides are products of Avner Goren's research. But
you're actually reinforcing the question, because he suggests means we don't know. We don't have a source.
It wasn't, I don't recall that it was open and shut. the Trianus, the Tetrapylon, I don't remember, but what made sense is the suggestion was that it was in the Hippodrome and not the one that's along the shore, which is later because it was affected.
One that's a little bit inland that wasn't a part
in
of
the banana fields, and you have to know
Right.
how to get in, and they have there an Egyptian obelisk, but you just see the seats, and you can just imagine the public spectacle in Roman fashion of the execution of Rabbi Akiva.
right.
So
But that's imaginary.
so
Not that he was executed, but that was the scene of the execution.
it's up to you if you want to dial and get Avner Gara now into this program. Say, Avner, what was your source? We can include him in this conversation. If he's free, it will be his pleasure to answer. But that's something to reference. So I don't know what their goal is. They're constantly digging there.
Well,
I'd
it's
like
a
to talk.
massive site, and that it's a massive site, and the site that you mentioned now in the banana fields, right, is not it's not a part of the ticket to go into the national park.
And
right?
it's open
Outside
all the
ground,
time.
right? It's open all the time. You can visit that anytime, day or night, basically, right? And it's something to see.
Oh, so let me give the directions.
Okay.
If you come, there's two main entrances to the Caesarea National Park, one to the north and one to the south. If you go to the northern one, which enters into Crusader Moat, and by the way, that's open after hours also because of weddings and restaurants. And at least you can see that part. You won't be able to see the
concerts. There are concerts there through the summer and into the fall.
other side, right? But even if not a concert, then that's not available. The north side is. You drive on to the north side, and then the aqueduct is even further over. If you turn your back to the Crusader entrance, to the booth where you would pay a ticket and where you go in over the Crusader Moat, and you take that road straight down, before it reaches to the end and makes a turn, on the right side, you will see in between the bushes a stone arch. And right there, or a little bit around, it's easier to slip in. You have to go through about 30 feet of bramble or bushes, and then you get to an open field and you see the obelisk in the distance, and you can still sense the outline of the stadium, of the Hippodrome seats to the right and to the left, and that it's a long oblong. Is that the oval? Yeah,
oblong is okay.
Right, because it's the racetrack, and they would take the turns at the far ends, and then there's a straightaway in the middle. The best seats are at the turns because that's where people would crash, die, collapse. You see it close up. Those were always the best seats. It's the most dangerous part. So that is from the time of Hadrian. That is from the time of Hadrian, and if it's correct, then it would have been there. That's where in general, I try to bring a keynotes from Tisha B'Av on tour, because there's constantly cities or events which are mentioned there, and you can pull that out, whether it's from Yirmiyahu or something else. It's part of a Tanakh, a Mishnah. It's part of a tour guide's, a teacher's kit.
So we're up to our next site. That's a site called El Araj. That's probably a relatively recent Arabic name for an older site. It's being excavated by Moti Aviam and Stephen Notley.
Yeah, but it's not being excavated by Rami Arav.
That's true.
You know why?
Rami Arav is in retirement, as far as I know.
No, because this is the question. Will the real Beit Saida please stand up? So the Beit Saida excavations that Richard Freund worked on with Rami Arav,
Northern Kinneret sites,
are just a little bit higher up, a little bit to the north, a little bit higher up, and are part of a national park there. They have a gate which has a seat as you come in, assumedly for the judges, one of those. There's some special features there. And they have houses from the time of the Second Temple.
Are you talking about El Araj? Or are you talking about the Saida?
No, be careful now.
Yeah,
right?
so you're confusing. We're not getting
No,
into
no, no, no,
details
no. I'm
about
explaining.
Beit
I'm
Saida.
explaining. The Rami Arab site has an Iron Age city. It's
That's
probably
Beit Saida. That's not our topic.
what I'm removing those words. And it's from Deshur. And he always says it's Beit Saida. This dig is arguing on that dig and saying that we closer to the water and where the fishermen would be, and for a number of different reasons, we are the real Beit Saida and not that. And they found mosaic floors. They're continuing to dig. Stephen Arnotli is a Christian scholar of the
Our
Bible.
Stephen Notley.
Our Stephen, I got sorry, the placement. I met him when we were working on Yavne. It was at the Bar Ilan conference. He worked with Zev Safra on the reissuing of the Karta Bible Atlas and on Talmudic phrases. He's a Christian scholar of the Second Temple and Mishnah Talmud period of Israel. And they are looking to see if they can identify where they think Jesus really was. Mati Aviam was, I think he was the regional archaeologist of the Galilee. He led us on our first Sanhedrin tour. He is a raconteur. He's a great speaker. He's entertaining. He's very insightful. And I think he's also retired, but he is doing this dig because he wants to. I don't think he needs to. I think he's just enjoying applying himself and finding something new. So this is the conversation, which one? So I wrote a brochure, which I don't think they used in the end, for the Beit Saida Jordan River Park one. And I was told you have to be careful because not everybody agrees. And then I found out about El Araj. And in the press that follows this, there's a constant dialogue. I found this proof, I found that proof. I don't know of any other similar conversation going on right now in the identification of a site. Will the real site so-and-so please stand up? We don't know where the eye is.
There are many places that we have question marks for.
Yes, but here they're having a dialogue. It's me. No, it's me.
They're both
have
excavating at sites relatively currently. I'm not sure what's going on in Beit Saida right now. I think it's on a hiatus.
Right. I'm just saying, I don't think this dialogue is happening everywhere else. Which side is biblical eye? There's 10 opinions right now, but you don't have two scholars. You do have a couple scholars saying it's Etel, and I'm digging there, and I dug there.
There's two eyes.
I don't know of another one.
Right? There's a capital I, and then there's the lowercase I.
Nice.
All right. Very good. So, I don't know anything about the excavation there, though, per se. Do you know what they have to show up till this point?
Mosaic floor and finds from the period, yes.
What kind of finds? We're talking about Iron Age finds?
I didn't read it recently, so I'm going to say I don't know.
All right, so we're up to Khirbet al Balua. Not Babalua, because that's from
in Jordan.
Ricardo and Lucy Ricardo.
In Jordan?
Sites in Israel. Khirbet al Balua being dug by Kent, Barmlet, Monique Roddy, and Freebert Ninau.
It's in Jordan.
Is it? I think this map only includes, you sent me the map with the site list.
Balua is a major important site in Moab, and the question is which biblical city it is.
Like it's near the border with, in the triangle, right? In the top northeastern corner of the country, above Majdal Shams, right? Right next to the border. That's what it looks like.
But in which country?
I think it's in Israel. I think these are only sites in Israel.
The Balua Stela is from the most important finds of that time, and that's Balua. A near completely unreadable Egyptian hieroglyphic found north of Al-Karak, and is thought to be from the 1300s BCE.
Yeah, it's on this side of the Jordan, though. Oh, maybe not. I can't tell because the map, the numbering, the lettering system is too fuzzy.
The famous Balua is a significant Moabite city, and it's a very important dig, and everybody's watching to see what they come.
It
I
could
believe
be,
you're
it could be
describing a dig in Jordan.
There is one site here in northern Jordan that could be it, but I can't. It's not marked well. I can't see it in the image that.
No, Balua is in the south. It's in Moab.
Yeah, so,
So
that's not it. So then
it doesn't have a map.
but I can't make out. There in the image that you sent me, there are some of the sites you can read the letter on them.
Right. Spell the name.
Jordan, you can't see.
Spell the name.
Khirbat with an A, Albalu apostrophe A. Khirbat al Balua.
And the name of one of the diggers.
The first listed digger is Kent Bramlett.
I look forward to getting all types of information from there to better understand Moab. The 2022 season, June 23rd to August 4th. David, let's go.
I'm ready. All
Okay.
right. The next is Cherbet Safra. And that's already completed. That was back in May 8th to June 10th. They dug for a month. And it was led by Paul Greger. I know nothing about that excavation. I don't know. Maybe it's an
Safra?
the Kikar Safra. Yeah.
No,
Because there's a lot of archaeology under Kikar Safra. It could be that it's part of that.
No, Cherbet Safra, which is 17 kilometers southwest of Madaba. Again,
Also
you are in Jordan.
Yeah.
Right.
Paul Greger.
Right. It's from Andrews University, who also, I think, dug and Tel Hizban. I'm not sure. But
bone in the Bible, also in Jordan.
I think that dig it also. A town from the period of the Judges, Part 2. A town from the period of the Judges.
Okay, so I guess this is underlying our need to go visit Jordan.
Yeah. Yeah.
Maybe David Lukens would be interested in a revisit.
Yeah. By the way, yeah. Okay, very good.
All right, so we're up to Leggio.
Leggio is a Roman camp.
Being dug by Matthew Adams, Yoram Tepper, and Susan Cohen. And Matthew Adams, we also know from his recent stint at what institution?
The Albright.
The Albright Institute in Jerusalem.
But right now he's a dig director he took over for Eric Klein, and he's now one of the dig directors of Megiddo, working closely with Israel Finkelstein.
Correct.
In the Albright.
Yet that's coming up.
Yeah, but really coming up. And the Albright put out a long series of Matthew interviewing Israel Finkelstein on the history of the world, basically, this region.
Available on YouTube for free.
And Megiddo appears, etc. But just now on the Megiddo website, so we'll deal with Megiddo. So Leggio is a Roman camp, I think of the 6th Legion, don't hold me to it, which lies at the same Megiddo junction in their time.
Well, Leggio means legion. It's the same root.
Yoram and Yotam Tepper are a father-son team, and they work in this period, and they identified this. I think they used landscape studies or some aerial photos. They used some ways to help identify it, and we're learning a lot about the Roman legion that was there, and they're hitting it again. So it's a Roman period dig, but basically it's the Megiddo junction. It's just at a later period.
So just as a side note, when we talk about a military camp, we think of it in contemporary terms. And a Roman military camp was a little city. And it had all the features.
A long-term one.
They were settled in, businesses opened, prostitutes followed the encampment to be able to provide services to the soldiers, right? This was
an interface with the local populace of where they do business and how they deal with the urban population.
So finding a Roman camp is not just about the military history of Rome. it also has many of the cultural aspects of a settled Roman place.
Right. They were manufacturing materials. They had their own businesses. That's why we find the roof tiles in Jerusalem of the region. So we'll find, and in a lot of places you don't have something that's so well preserved as Leggio, as this excavation. So it's really a gold mine for understanding the periods.
Right. Okay. Moving on. Dulia. Right. And that is going to be starting July 18th, which is in another week or so. And guess who's the head excavator there? Mickey Osband, our friend Mickey, originally from Boston.
And Ram Buchnick.
Not listed here. And they'll be digging from July 18th to August 4th, and then from September 11th to the 22nd. So 2 sessions with a break in between.
And what period? So if you can do this one and pull it up to see what period it is. But what Mickey did over here is he did a regional study to see the interface between this town and around, and it's being recommended to me from my work on Yavne as an example of the hinterland relationship to the city. I think they have what is a synagogue, and Ram Buchnick is working on it. He told me about it, and we are invited because I just took a tour with Ram Buchnick of the upper coast of Israel, and he said we're going to start soon in the Golan.
So yeah, it's a Golan site. Mickey lives in the Golan. Mickey Osband lives in the Golan, so it's basically in his backyard, and it's a Jewish village dating to the Roman period. So that's very interesting. A lot of work has not yet been done in the Golan. The Golan has a lot of archaeology. It has many, many sites, and sometimes the site can be as small as just a synagogue on a hill, right? In some of the places without necessarily being in a city context. And what you're talking about is a region of Israel that's not on the primary radar screen. It's kind of off to the side, waiting for young archaeologists to come and put their mark on it and to dig and excavate. The things that we have found, like Tir, with the ancient synagogue there and the work that Yeshu Dre did there and others, right, is monumental. I mean, it's really fantastic to see what's going on there, but there's a huge amount that remains to be done and sites that haven't been identified yet. And there are many,
There's a major Golan cataloging project going on, if I'm not mistaken. But pardon the pun, let's call a spade a spade. There's an entire element of Israeli society that fervently, honestly, ideologically looks at the Golan as captured Syrian territory and will not drink the wines, will not visit. And that's why archaeologists of the mainstream...
Same with Judea and Samaria. Judea and Samaria, there are people here who feel Correct. We have no right to be here.
Correct. But I was in a class and they talked about Corinne. There's a woman who worked in the 70s on the prehistory of the Golan, which is very rich, the prehistory. And then there's a gap, nobody worked on it. And we're first-year students. And we asked the professor, why did nobody do it? And it's not part of class, it was during a break. And very quietly, the professor said, because people considered it occupied territory, they did not want to look into it, to follow it. I forgot the name.
So it's just important, since you raised the politics, which we try to generally stay away from, right? This is a biblical area. 2.5 tribes of Israel lived on the eastern side of the Jordan River, right? These are areas that were settled in the time of the judges. They were settled in the time of the first temple, settled in the time of the second temple. The deep roots of Jewish history in these areas is really quite profound and not sufficiently explored.
So
So leaving the politics to the side,
a caveat.
rich
Caveat.
in history.
You're quoting texts that discuss these regions. Archaeologically, we can show very strongly with Hebrew inscriptions that during the time of the Mishnah and Talmud and stretching back into the Second Temple period, a Jewish presence for hundreds of years that's clearly Jewish. Earlier than that, I don't know of proof of a Jewish presence or other than Tel Dan at the other side.
So you should be aware, right? In archaeology, we don't go digging for proof.
No, I understand. I'm talking about what's come up.
It turns up, and not enough excavation work is
I understand.
done.
The Megiddo I'm looking at, I can tell you is the Megiddo referred to in the Bible in this period.
These 26 layers of settlement and massive excavation.
Yes, but I also with inscriptions and Babylonian weapons, and it talks about a Babylonian destruction. I don't know personally of something equivalent from the biblical period or the Bronze Age patriarchal period.
That's been excavated. Correct.
I don't know offhand, other than Tel Aviv of the time of Achav.
Good, we have
right,
3 at least.
No, I'm saying there's something you can recreate where that battle was, and there are some remains. So you say, I'm in a biblical story here with remains. It's not, I don't think it's perfectly strong, but there are now signs up saying, it's this. It's a bit of a discussion even there. I don't have the smoking gun for those periods that I have from Gamla, a synagogue that's standing in the time of the Second Temple.
Good.
And I can recreate the Josephus story and the other synagogues which have Hebrew inscriptions. And this is the Bet Midrash of Elazar Kapar. So the fact that there's Jewish roots there from Second Temple, Mishnah Talmud period, incontrovertible from a scientific point of view. I don't know the level beforehand.
Good.
That doesn't answer current politics.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's not the point. The point is not enough excavation has taken place there. We certainly don't have anything that refutes it. Right? Anywhere. We have nothing to refute.
No, I'm just saying that so to know that Jewish people lived there, yes. Now the question is about the boundaries and when is Syria created? What is the 1922 Sykes-Picot Agreement, Churchill's things, the colonial powers
to the discussion.
If we have Israelis saying this is sovereign Syrian territory,
but that's a political statement. Right. And the politics that governs all of that, right, is anything that we won in 1967, that the state of Israel won in 1967, needs to be returned to Syria, regardless of the history, or to Jordan, or to Egypt.
Correct.
Right. And that's pure politics. That has nothing to do with history or the historicity, right, of the region or the archaeology.
I said it as a caveat.
We may recognize that right now Jericho, right, is in the hands of the Palestinian Authority. We recognize that the state of Israel made an agreement with the Palestinian Authority, right, and it's now in the hands of the Palestinian leadership, and we have almost no say in what goes on there, almost no say in, and our ability to go to these places is limited. It doesn't mean it doesn't have Jewish history. It doesn't mean it doesn't have biblical history, right? And that I'm not interested in the politics of the moment. I'm interested in the history and the archaeology of the sites, and we need to be excavating everywhere that we can. That's my personal opinion. And places that are going to be problematic, we don't you and I, we don't excavate in Beitar, and we didn't excavate in Beitar because of politics. Not because there isn't compelling historical and archaeological evidence to justify excavating there. There is, right? Two different issues. And the truth is, we're not doing the politics of the moment. That would be a separate discussion with other people and other issues, right? People come here because they want to hear about the land, not about where the borders are drawn.
I want to make sure we touch on 2 excavations.
Yeah.
One is Tel Megiddo, and I want our followers here to know they can go on to the Megiddo expedition, right, which is starting on it started June 26th. They're already there. They're
So
finishing this.
I'd
They're
like to make
finishing
the
the second
following
week.
suggestion. I'd like to make the following suggestion. Let's do the two more sites in the first column, right? And then have a break because we've been going for a long time and I don't want to overwhelm people, and do a part two, right? Coming up, either later today or next week, whatever works. But we have left on our first column, we have Sheikin and Tel Akko. So what can you say about Sheikin? That one is, the dates are May 30th to June 24th, being dug by James Strange. I know you know who James Strange is. Moti Aviam again, and Tom McCullough. Now, I'm hoping
I found pots there that were very significant that are mentioned in Chazal.
Well, first of all, where is Sheikin? I admit I don't know where it is, but if I had to guess, I'd say it's in the Galilee.
Yeah, it's in the Tzipori area. It's within the Tzipori area, and they found the synagogue of the community. Yes, it's the lamps of Sheikin. They found lamps, and
they found a factory there.
Yes,
correct.
And some of them are displayed in the museum of Gedosar in the Sanhedrin display.
I think Benjamin Storchan, the archaeologist from the IAA, Benjamin Storchan, mentioned that in his presentation about the
lamps. On lamps, because they're very significant. Josephus talks about it, that it's a place next to Tzipori, and it's a place of expert potters. And we found the factory and many pots of this place that he mentions. It was destroyed in the earthquake of 363, right? And they've been digging there now for a decade. They have a shul, they have other things. We'll find out, what they're digging now. It's a national, it's because it's in Tzipori, it's listed on the national park site because it's within the national park of Tzipori. So Dr. Aviam has wow, this is old, a 2014 article over here, but they've gone far beyond. But that's what it is. It's a place that we know about from texts, and it talks about the potters, and we're finding those potters. What else do you got?
Our last site on the first column, and that's Tel Akko. So I went to visit Tel Akko this week. I was hoping to meet with Ann Killebrew and maybe Michal Artzi. There was nobody there. I went on Sunday. I went again on Wednesday.
Did you hear an Akko?
Akko. And I couldn't find traces of anybody digging there recently. The excavation areas from 2019 are very much overgrown and covered up with, the detritus of that accumulates at sites like this. They've concentrated in the last dig in the area of the breach, right, which is on the north side of the Tel. Just to clarify for the listeners, right, the Tel of Tel Akko is probably a kilometer, maybe, from the old city of the Crusader period and later parts of Akko. Massive site. A little has been dug. It looks like they were planning on being there from July 3rd to August 1st based on this, but we could not find neither hide nor hair of anybody digging. We went around the site.
When you're in Waze, you put in Napoleon Hill, and that will bring it to you because they have this statue of Napoleon on it. Nice walk up, beautiful views, and you're actually in Akko.
360 degrees in every direction, right? And we did some drone photography at the site. I thought maybe some drone photography would help us to identify the silted up harbor of ancient Akko. And I'm still going through the pictures and the videos that we shot, but some very compelling information. And also, it's a big open free park that anybody can visit if they're in the northern part of Israel. Highly recommended.
Mayin Shemitah Etzel Tel Akko.
There you go.
What
Why
is
don't
the
you
connection
explain what
between
that?
Shemitah
Good.
and Akko?
Yeah. Borders,
Akko
baby.
is a boundary of the land of Israel, especially in the time of the Second Temple when there were more constricted boundaries of where the laws of Shemitah
Apply.
would apply. And it's an end. Ashkelon is on one end, Akko on the other. And then there's a path. When you're going from Ashkelon to Achziv, one side of the path is considered free from the responsibilities because it's considered a gentle area, and one side of the path,
Gentile, not a gentle area.
and one side of the path is considered the Jewish area, and the laws apply, and you have to check, and you have to be sure about it, different terms. Now, there's a contradiction between the Babylonian and Jerusalem Talmud. The Vilna Gaon even makes an emendation about is it to the east or to the west, and the you're also starting an approach towards Tyre there, which is just a few minutes drive past the border of the land of Israel and over the mountains, Sulma Shel Tzor, the ladder of Tyre, and there's a discussion where that road is. Again, a business person that doesn't need the doctorate is working on a project in the framework of Bar-Ilan University and worked out based on the archaeology, what that road was and what the settlement pattern was in the time of the Jerusalem Talmud, and that had changed in the time of the Babylonian Talmud.
We interviewed him on LandMinds a number of years ago. I don't remember his name. Do you remember his name?
I watched the YouTube, but I didn't know he existed. Chaim Ben David referred me to him half a year ago.
We talked with somebody on LandMinds who was discussing exactly that issue.
It was probably Chaim Ben David, but
No, it wasn't
somebody.
David.
This is not a known person. He spoke at the conference, and Chaim Ben David said, I heard him speak at the conference, and I found him, and it's on YouTube. I could look for it. But he's suggesting, based on the archaeology, that there's no contradiction, just the situation that totally changed of where the settlements were. And then there's notes from Victor Gurin from the 1800s that ancient roads were found cut into the mountain. And then again, the Teppers put out an article, or it's part of a book, about roads to Aliyah L'Regel, right? How the roads that people took to Jerusalem. And so they address it in this book as well. So it's a very rich topic, which doesn't have enough. But what I did was, with the Walder Science Center winners, the boys' trip and the girls' trip, is we went up to Tel Akko and we read the text and we faced towards Achziv, because everybody take a step.
Achziv, just for the listeners, is a little bit north of Akko.
Yeah,
right?
Before Rosh Hanikra, Tel Achziv.
Between Nahariya and Rosh Hanikra.
Right, and there's a park there. You pay admission and you go and you stand on ancient Achziv. And I said, okay, now let's read the text. Hamahalech, we did it from the Rambam. Hamalech ben Akko le'achziv, and we take a step, and you're basically on that path. The next line, the halacha, talks about how you draw the line of the boundary, and it includes the islands that are within that line. And the question is how to read that line, interpret the Mishnah, Torah Amnon, but saying that it's coming from the Taurus Mountains, for example, in the north, and going down to Egypt, either to El Arish or to the Pelusian arm of the Nile, whatever you will hold Nahar Mitzrayim is. And again, that's just one approach in understanding the Mishnah. But it says that the islands inside the line are part of Israel. And so you go to the tornado boats at Achziv Beach, and you go out in between the islands.
Forget the tornado boats.
Yeah.
Last year, my wife arranged for ourselves and 3 other couples to get lessons in kayaking. And we rowed out to the islands in the kayaks. Okay. And me, the tough guy from California, did not wear any sunscreen. and I got a sunburn on my legs you wouldn't believe. But we rode from the coast near Akziv, right out to the islands and around the islands. And then my wife said to me, "Are you?" Because our guide who was with us, right, he was in the next boat. He said, "You guys want to go in the water? We'll stay right here in this area, and you can jump in the water if you want to cool off." So some people jumped in. Daphne said, "Do you want to go in the water?" I said, "No, I think I'm gonna stay in the boat." So she stood up on the side of the boat and she jumped into the water. And when she jumped, she pushed off the boat. The boat flipped over, and whether I wanted to or not, yours truly landed right in the actually very refreshing waters of the Mediterranean.
I always jump off the boat.
I have no doubt. You
Right.
also jumped into the Euphrates, but that's a story for another
Yes.
time. So
Yes.
this ends part 1. We have some sites coming up in part 2. This is David Willner.
And Barnea, Levi, Selavan.
Thanks for joining us, and have a great day.